Hey, here I am taking a look at another knife, and this one is a Sencut. Kerchunk. Now this thing probably looks a little familiar to you if if you are familiar with the initial few that Sencut came out with. This one right here. This is the Citius. This is the Honoris. So yes, they are in that same kind of family there. Obviously, this one is larger. It's got a taller blade. It's a little bit longer, and it doesn't have the contouring that this one in particular does. What it does share, however, is blade steel. Both of these are 9CR 18 MOV. Metallurgically, very similar to 440C. That's basically the kind of performance that you're going to get out of this, which isn't exactly super amazing, but you know. It also has its nice side of being decent to end up maintaining. And speaking of that, I did technically reprofile this thing to 20 degrees, but it was basically set already there. So I basically went from 200 or 220 grit on up through the whole lapping films and stuff for the nice shiny edge. And that took about 20 minutes, which I guess that might sound maybe like a little bit of time for people who don't do a whole bunch of sharpening, but that is quite a bit less time than it would take for me to do that on a similar D2 blade, or heck, even 14C28N. These were just much easier to deal with. So yeah, if you're not familiar with the steel or that, then yes, this is definitely one that is designed for you to kind of know how to maintain your knife, because you will be doing that relatively frequently if you do carry it as your daily driver. Yeah. So at least I've covered all of that. So this guy has a few variations that I saw. This one is in the micarta, or flax fiber, or whatever the heck that they end up wanting to call that as a generic version of it, because this definitely isn't the name brand micarta, but hey, a lot of stuff isn't. But they also have same exact design with the blacked blade in a corborita wood for basically the same price, or maybe it was $1 cheaper or more expensive, but yeah, yours makes no difference, it's the same. And they also had one that was strange to me, black G10, same flat sort of thing, affair, but we had a Damascus steel blade on here. Still, just like Civivi, it's a 9CR 18 MOV based Damascus, so you're gaining 0% as far as edge retention or anything like that. But you do have little wavies in there, but you also only have it in G10, which seems kind of strange. Oh well. But yeah, the one that appealed to me the most was this micarta one here, and I am glad to say I do appreciate this micarta more than what I've experienced thus far with Civivi, which, well, I just happen to have my button lock Elementum here. This was in olive drab micarta until I dyed it purple a little while ago. But the micarta on the Civivis that I've felt, including this one, they don't have a whole lot of texture going on to them. They have a decent thread count, but you can see this one does. It's relatively similar. But yeah, these ones all kind of have a fairly smooth-ish kind of feel to them. They feel a lot like dried Play-Doh, believe it or not. Whereas this one obviously has a lot more texture going on there, and I really do appreciate that. Does really kind of bring up the feel of it in general. You know, us sets it aside from it just being a different thing than G10. So yeah, I do like this. So that's quite good. Just like with the little smaller guy here, the Citius, this one has a very large access hole. Makes it incredibly easy for doing that reverse flick. Also very easy to do a full thumb roll out. And of course it has the back flipper there. All of that works out great. The detent is actually nicely tuned for everything, which is pretty good to see, because I have seen on quite a few other manufacturers that if it has a flipper involved and it has some other deployment methods, usually they take a back seat to the flipping tuning on the detent strength, and you'll end up trying to hurting yourself or something like that, trying to open them up the other ways. But this one works out quite well. It doesn't have those grooves like the smaller Citius does, but I do think that's a little more liberating as far as where your fingers end up going, rather than the knife kind of dictating exactly where your fingers are supposed to go. That helps, especially if you do things like a pinch grip or something like that I'll end up doing quite a bit if I'm cutting down towards something. I do find that a lot more comfortable a lot of times than that saber grip with the thumb all up on top. Kind of gets my thumb out of the way as well. And, you can also choke up if you really want to get some nice fine motor controls going on there. I would like to see a bit of jimping on top here. It is in the same family, and the Citius doesn't have that either. So, sure, I can understand that. But it really does feel like it would behoove it to have that. It just seems like it would add a little bit more to the whole saber grip sort of thing going on to it. But yeah, we have pocket clip, which is quite similar to other stuff. It's a little bit larger than the one here on the Citius, but yeah, it is a bit different than Civivi's standard clip that they have on a lot of stuff. That was the Elementum. Here's the Imperium that yeah, basically has the same thing here. And the Praxis and a couple others that I have also have that same pocket clip here. This one's a little bit different. It's got a different coating on it. It's, if you can see, it's not just black. It's more of a gunmetal, I guess, for a lack of a better term. But yeah, so when I got this thing, I was worried it was a giant piece of junk. What ended up happening was every single screw on this thing was loose. I don't know if that was just rattled open from lack of thread locker and stuff like that, and a relatively rough kind of shipment from overseas or something like that. Not quite sure, but yeah, I did pull it out, and yeah, there was significant blade play in there, and the pocket clip was all sorts of wagging in the breeze and things like that, and it kind of worried me. But I did take it apart to kind of see on the inside and clean it out and stuff like that. And once I got it all back together, that's when I realized, oh, all the screws were loose, including for the pocket clip, including for the scales, and especially the pivot there. So once I have it all nice and tightened up, we're good to go. No blade play. Nice action there. We have ceramic bearings in brass cages on this thing. It's interesting. Looks like they're probably sharing some of the same equipment from Civivi. Makes sense. So nice to see that. And this pocket clip, once I have now secured it down, does feel pretty darn significantly strong. It does have just a little tiny bit of wiggle back and forth, but it honestly does feel stronger than the pocket clips that I've had on Civivi's. So that's quite nice. You can swap this over to be a left-handed clip. I appreciate that. We have flush-mounted screws, but they're not inset into the micarta. Doesn't really make a lick of difference either way for me. I haven't really run into any kind of pants that this doesn't fit into fairly easily. And we have a little tiny lanyard tube barrel sort of thing. It's contoured in the middle for it to hug onto that a little bit. It's a little strange, but yeah, it works. But yeah, I was pretty interested in this thing and really happy with it. But this is where I have to have this little kind of conundrum or confusion sort of going on. Oh, I should mention, you do actually have lock bar access here. It's not just completely flush. You can see we have some scallops there. So, yeah, easy enough to do that. So, anyway, what I was alluding to here a moment ago is something that I probably brought up in when I was taking a look at this and the scepter that both came out around the same time is, well, it seems mostly like this is what they are intending to have take the place of Civivi as far as price-wise in their product stack. Because most Civivis are creeping higher and higher, getting up to 100, sometimes 120 bucks. Whereas, yeah, they used to be 30 to 50 or so, like these guys. So it's a little interesting that, yeah, these are basically only distributed through Amazon from what I understand, or possibly you can buy them through their website. I haven't actually checked that myself. But other distributors, you know, who have made We and Civivi a lot more popular companies here in the States, aren't really involved in it whatsoever. They also claim, for the most part, that what's saving them a little bit of money there is not really using a whole lot of outside designers, using all in-house sort of stuff. But I have also seen recently that Ostap Hell has at least said that he's done at least some design work here, specifically using Sencut and his hashtags for a Instagram post. So I don't know really. It's a little confusing to me there. But here's the thing. When the Sencuts first came out, this one and the Scepter, which I don't have in front of me, they were both in the 30s. And that's why we were like, oh, neat. And I bought them, and a couple other people did. And by the time my review actually went live, they jumped up in price, where the Scepter was like 46. This guy was like 41 or 42. And the rest of them have stayed around there. This one being $44 or $45 itself. And the problem really with that is you get some nice, you get some decent design work. You got some decent action going on here. And you know, a lot of the rest of the stuff. However, this is $45 for a knife that has micarta and 9CR18 MOV. Which kind of puts it at a bit of a disadvantage compared to a lot of the other companies around in that same kind of price range, or who are still targeting lower. I'm talking Ganzo especially, but Ruike or Ruike, a lot of their stuff is kind of right around in that range. FreeTiger and some of the other kind of smaller knife companies. They're getting you basically around that same kind of quality and feel and craftsmanship, but they're getting a little bit better steel to you. They're getting you 14C28N and D2, possibly 12C27. I guess it depends on the manufacturer. For basically, you know, $10 to $15 cheaper than these guys here. So it really makes it difficult to really suggest and recommend that a lot of people go out here and purchase one of these guys when they can get essentially the same quality and or better materials for a cheaper price from companies who are also known to actually make a decent product as well. So yeah, it does make it a little more difficult to really suggest that somebody go out there and purchase this guy. But I was interested, and it was probably a little bit because I like the small, stabby form factor of the Citius here. And this one's a little bit larger. And that kind of tickled my fancy, so I picked it up. And I do enjoy the knife itself, so that's nice. But, yeah, unless you can really find it on sale, if it's going to be in the 30s or something like that, maybe around the holiday time or something like that. I do think 45 is probably a little overpriced for what you're particularly getting here in today's climate. You know, with, like I said, all those other manufacturers like Ruike and Ganzo and stuff like that who are making knives in that same kind of quality range for a bit cheaper. But, alright, I've covered a lot of that. How about if we do some blade size comparisons and stuff like that, because I forgot to do that earlier. I should really do that earlier in these videos. But here we are with PM2, around the same kind of blade length-ish, but obviously a longer handle going on there. The Benchmade is basically the same blade length. This one obviously is my bedraggled 19-year-old one here, so it's been sharpened up, as you can see. A bit shorter than a normal one would be. Let's see. Here we are with the Kalashnikov 74. I don't know. We got the Ontario Rat number 1, which, again, same kind of blade length, but much longer handle. All right, and some stats to go along with that. We have, like a lot of Civivis and things, we have a 3mm blade stock thickness. So that's pretty good. We have a high flat grind, or yeah, pretty high flat grind. It's not a full flat grind quite, but you can see it basically tapers up here. So that works out all right. It's quite thin behind the edge. This thing does make a pretty good slicer. And it actually does a little bit better job than the Citius here. And that's mostly just due to it having more height in the blade. But this thing does hit that ounce and inch mark, as we have 3.46 inches for the blade, and it weighs 3.14 ounces, or 89 grams. And the handle thickness here is 0.49. It's just a touch smaller than the Spyderco PM2. So just a teensy bit thinner than the average. So yeah, a lot of the dimensions on this make it a pretty darn good knife overall. Like I said, I think one of the things that are probably holding it back, but what is making it a Sencut, is the fact that it's using the 9CR 18 MLV. Which, I mean, it's an alright starter steel. I don't really have problems with 440C and equivalent kind of things if they are kind of marketed around that same kind of area. But, yeah, I do think that basically between this and if it was a Civivi, this would probably be Nitro V, and that might be about the only difference. Of course, it being Civivi, it would be more expensive. But, you know, it would probably also have a designer behind it as well. But there you go. Those are kind of my thoughts here on the Sencut Honoris. I don't feel the need to fully disassemble this guy, but I will kind of shine the light in here, and you can definitely see we have like a lot of trapezoidal holes cut out in the liners on both sides. Yeah, and that definitely helps bring that weight down to under the ounce and inch mark. All right, well, yeah, there was the kind of somber-ish finish to what I think is a pretty darn good design of a knife, just probably a little bit overpriced for what you are getting in today's climate. So, all right, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.